Everyone in Pittsburgh knows that we made steel for decades, and that legacy is still a living part of who we are now. But there aren't a lot of examples left of how all that history was forged. With the Cary blast furnaces, you can literally stand in the shadow of what was once cutting-edge technology. Rivers of Steel offers tours of this important national historic landmark, and they explain how we made iron, introduce you to the people, the workers who made it possible, and share more about the culture that sprang up to support them. Plus, they've got a special spotlight right now on how the Great Migration shaped its workforce. Learn more and book a tour at riversofsteel.com/tours. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, it's time to stop sneaking a peek down at your phone while you're driving. And don't you dare send a text. Our city's technical and training schools are struggling to the point of closure. And what would you do if you were a Tiki boat captain and people kept capsizing in front of you? We've got the news you need to wrap up your week. It's June 14th, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast Mallory Falk. Good morning.
Good morning, Megan.
You know, earlier this week, producer Sophia Lowe and I were talking about ways to get out on the water here in Pittsburgh. And one of our recommendations was trying the cruisin' tikis. Have you seen those, the little tiki boats?
I haven't partaken. I was trying to figure it out, and it's pretty pricey. So far, I've just admired them from afar.
I feel like these tiki boats are like my personal white whale. They just keep not happening for me. But it turns out they're doing more out here than showing us the sights.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe they're the unsung heroes of the city, because just a couple days ago, one of the captains rescued a capsized kayaker from the Allegheny.
And it's the third time that one of these captains has had to do this. Credit to the Trib for bringing us this very important story.
Yeah, they mentioned that these boats are smaller and more easily maneuverable than big ones. So I guess the captains can act quickly and get to the spots that other boats might have some more trouble reaching. Because I was wondering whether there was just like one heroic ultramarathoner Tiki captain who kept diving in, but it sounds like multiple captains have made these rescues.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the concept of this is wild to me, considering we have the U.S. Coast Guard that's stationed here in Pittsburgh, and then the city's River Rescue Unit, part of the police bureau, which actually reminds me of a very infamous Pittsburgh movie that I have yet to watch.
I don't know what you're referring to.
No. I got you this job after they took your shield.
River Rescue 9221. This is base. Party, please come in.
9221, guy.
He's got a new assignment.
And Shark.
A new partner.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
I never had a woman partner before.
Neither have I.
And a river full of dead bodies.
We're in pursuit of a murder suspect, maybe armed and dangerous.
This is not your case, you understand me?
Let's have a bear here!
They should have never put him in the water if they didn't want him to make waves.
Okay, based on the narration and music alone, I'm going to guess that this was from the 80s, which was a time when I was thinking this is very bad PR for Pittsburgh's rivers, but no one was trying to go in the rivers in that era anyway.
Yeah, you're close. 1993, the classic Bruce Willis film,
What?
Striking Distance.
I am not familiar, but now I have my weekend plans.
Yeah, he plays a river rescue police guy where he's been basically demoted because he spoke out against bad cops in the bureau.
And now he's got a river full of dead bodies on his hands.
Yeah, and Sarah Jessica Parker as his partner.
How did I not know about this star-studded Pittsburgh film? Wow.
Yeah, I think I also need to put this on my short list. Anyway, these Tiki boat captains are just doing so much out here, providing people with a good time while they drink. They sail along the Allegheny and just making sure everybody's safe, even if they're not on that specific Tiki boat, it sounds like.
I'm thinking that maybe this is my surefire way to actually end up on one of these Tiki cruises is just,
flail about
in the water and then get lifted aboard. I think I found my Tiki boat hack. Okay, well, let's move on to some news. Megan, what has lit you up this week?
Yeah, Governor Josh Shapiro has signed this new law that bans folks from using cell phones and handheld devices while driving. I am tentatively very excited about it, even if it does mean I'm going to have to personally change or I guess be a little more vigilant about my own behavior in the car.
Same here. This is a good reminder, good wake-up call to not, play on my phone while I'm behind the wheel.
Yeah, my car has like the thing with the screen and all that where I can plug it in. I just frequently forget to plug in my destination before I actually leave the driveway. I'm going to have to get better.
And I know that we did have rules against texting while driving beforehand, but this new law is a little bit broader.
Yeah, so no more sneaking a peek at your notifications, no queuing up songs on your Spotify playlist while you're driving. I imagine there's a variety of ways we could break these rules.
Right, which, I tend not to do that when I'm driving already, but I do get on my phone when I'm stopped at a red light, which that is now banned too. But if you do have that little dashboard in your car, like you were describing, Megan, you can connect to your phone and use that screen. I have yet to do that. This is why I will never have a job in the tech industry here, because just connecting to the screen in my car seems too intimidating. So that's the level that I'm at right now.
I mean, I passed it off to my partner. However, I can't express to you how often I yell at my car because it will connect to the wrong phone the wrong way almost every time I use it.
Yeah, I've definitely inadvertently eavesdropped on my husband's phone calls when his phone has connected to the car while he's in the house and I'm sitting out front getting ready to pull out.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, this law has been signed. It's real, but it doesn't kick in until next June. After that, if police catch you looking at your phone in your hand, you get a $50 fine, at least for your first offense.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to get fined, but I'm also kind of surprised that this is less than what like a parking ticket costs.
Yeah, most of them here in the city, they've gotten so expensive. But yeah, I think it's kind of a marginal disincentive too. The Associated Press reports that once the law goes into effect, drivers still get a grace year where you get a written warning. They also said repeat offenders could get time in prison, but I don't know how many times you have to do it before that's on the table. Hopefully the money isn't the deterrent though, because, you just want to be a safe driver. And the cost can be so much higher if you're distracted and you get into an accident. If there's anyone hurt, God forbid. We've also talked a lot on this show just about how pedestrians and bikers have gotten hit a lot lately here in the city. It's just so sad and really preventable.
Yeah, I mean, actually, just a few weeks ago, I was walking my dog and suddenly this car came and smacked into a parked car on the street right next to where we were walking. And the driver got out and kind of admitted right away that they were on their cell phone.
To you? As if you're just confession right to the person watching?
To the person whose car was parked and ran out of their home and asked what happened.
Oh, man.
And it was just that, thankfully, they were going 15 miles an hour. No one else was on the road. The only thing that got hurt were these two cars and probably this person's dignity. But it was just this reminder of the stakes and how easy it is to get distracted and then something really bad can happen.
Yeah, I mean, and just your neighborhood. It's really tight quarters, which is true for so much of the city. Anyway, there's more to this law than stopping people from driving while holding a phone. Police now need to record demographic data when they make traffic stops. Tons of other states already do this. It was folded into this cell phone ban to hopefully prevent police from targeting people from marginalized communities.
Yeah, and I mean, that was going to be my concern about the new law, because obviously it's a good thing if people are not on their phones while they're driving. But laws like this tend to get enforced unevenly. And so this seemed like yet another situation where Black and brown drivers would be stopped and cited more often than white ones. But don't the police already collect data on things like race when they make stops?
Sort of. State police say they were doing this voluntarily already. There's just going to be a more standardized process. More police departments will be doing that kind of data collection because it's just been piecemeal from department to department. So if you get pulled over, police will need to report why they pulled you over, the details of what happened, your race, ethnicity, age, and gender.
So does that all kick in next June when the ban goes into effect?
No, actually, for that piece, police get more time than us.
Surprise.
They get a year and a half, so sometime next winter-ish.
Did
Did you know there's a speakeasy on Liberty Avenue? Well, we're letting the cat out of the bag, or I guess I should say the rabbit out of the hat, because Liberty Magic is Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater, dedicated to the art of elevating magic. And if you've never been, there is a really fun show right now that would be a perfect entry point to what they do best. Magician and comedian Rob Zabrecky has brought his variety show, The Zabrecky Hour, to Pittsburgh, and it is just so wonderfully weird. There's deadpan comedy, song and dance, and his absurd take on mental phenomena, which may involve getting a few of his audience members involved. It is strange in a way you will never forget. The Zabrecky Hour is happening now at Liberty Magic through July 14th, and they even offer a Skeleton Key VIP experience for the best seats and an up-close encounter. You've got to check it out. That's the Zabrecky Hour at Liberty Magic through July 14th. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear.
Weighing in with soybeans and a baby show straight out of Norburn, Missouri, we have Soybean Festival. From Hayward, Wisconsin, at 73 years young with the world's largest muskie statue, put it together for Muskie Fest. Finally, packing a punch with fire dancing and a pet costume contest, the Roseau, Minnesota Fall Harvest Fest. One of these festivals could win $100,000 in the Cenex Hometown Throwdown. You decide. Cast your vote at CenexHometownThrowdown.com. Cenex, powered locally.
Okay, so let's move from state to local. Here in Pittsburgh, there's been a few big closures announced. Both the Pittsburgh Technical College and Triangle Tech say that they are shutting down.
Oof, this is rough. Let's start with Triangle Tech. It is a technical school that's been around for 80 years. They've got a few locations across the state, and all of them are shutting down, not just the local ones. But that does include the Pittsburgh campus on the north side.
If you're not familiar, Triangle Tech offered a whole bunch of things, 16-month training programs, welding, fabrication, HVAC, electricity, 3D printing, carpentry. I'm reading off their website.
Yeah. And, KDK reports that students who are currently enrolled in those programs will be able to finish their degrees through June 2025. So at least the current students won't be scrambling to find another school to transfer to.
Yeah, definitely an upside. The president emeritus of Triangle Tech told KDKA that they're closing because of changes in the industry. I'm sure the pandemic had something to do with that. And there's just not enough students enrolling in the school.
So that KDKA piece says that there are 261 students system-wide.
That's just not that many.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see how many they have here in Pittsburgh?
I didn't see it in any of the reported stories, but those U.S. News and World Report, best college things that they do. It's got a description of Triangle Tech, and that said that there were 109 students at the Pittsburgh campus, at least as of 2022.
Got it. I would kind of be curious how many there were at the height
of
Triangle Tech and then
how it compares to now.
Right. Because they're saying enrollment is, this big part of why they have to close.
Mm-hmm.
Another detail I saw in KDK is that the current students are getting some help from something called the Worksmith Institute.
Okay.
They pledged to give each student $1,500 to help with finishing their program. So again, not an ideal situation, but there are at least a few kind of safeguards in place to help these students finish their education.
It's just so great that they're doing that. I guess let's move on to Pittsburgh Technical College. They announced that they're closing much sooner in August.
Yeah.
So there's going to be folks that need to find another school or something ASAP. But actually good news there too, I think.
Yeah, for students who want to transfer, both Point Park University and CCAC, our community college, have made offers. So Point Park says they'll accept all credits and they promise to maintain the current tuition rates at Pittsburgh Technical College. And then CCAC says credit transfers might depend on the program, and students will pay, quote, the same low tuition rates as CCAC students.
I wonder which one's cheaper. I genuinely don't know. There's also a teach out option through CCAC. So PTC students could maybe transfer into a different program if there's not one that perfectly aligns with maybe what they'd been studying at the technical school. CCAC is hosting an exploration day for students at Triangle Tech and Pittsburgh Technical College. That's scheduled for July 9th to help them get a sense of everything that's on the table.
Yeah, it sounds like our local college community is really rallying, which is very nice to see. I also saw a WPXI report that Point Park is going to take in all of the tech college's records. So if former students need a transcript or something, they'll have all of that information, because I imagine that is a huge nightmare if your school has shut down and there's just no record of anything.
I can confirm, because my mom got a nursing degree from a technical school in the 80s, and trying to figure out her transcript situation so she could get a Pennsylvania nursing license was nuts.
Yikes.
And her school still existed. It's just the digitizing of all of that is so vital for folks that are, maybe advanced career, but still in the workforce.
Okay, so Point Park is really doing a lot for students, not just here, but in the state as a whole, because they've also said they'll accept anyone from University of the Arts, which is across the state in Philly, but also suddenly closed down too. So it sounds like Point Park is going to be this receptacle for students and for student records.
Yeah. I don't know if this feels true to your experience, Mallory. I think we had very different high school education at times. But I remember in the early 2000s kind of being fed this message that I had to go to college, that tech and trade schools were out, four-year college was in. It just didn't feel like a conversation.
Right. And then it seems like more recently, maybe the tide has turned and there started to be discussion about maybe college isn't for everyone or isn't the most worthwhile investment for everyone, especially with, the student debt crisis.
Exactly.
And so now there is this focus on reinvesting in the trades, or this acknowledgement that there is a need for that.
Yeah. And also because nobody could find a plumber anymore.
Yeah, right. But, then the pandemic happened, and so many of those kind of trade skills really have to be learned in person.
Yeah. And I just keep thinking about looking downstream a little bit. It feels really scary to me in terms of workforce development for our community. Losing multiple tech schools at the same time. It's not, maybe it won't be a big deal right away, in the first couple of years. But think about 10, 15, 20 years from now, when once again, no one can find anyone to wire their house.
Right.
We're just already so low in our region for new mid-priced housing stock. And I can't imagine this is going to help the situation.
Well, and at least with Pittsburgh Technical College, the closure is a little more complicated. In their official statement, they wrote about declining enrollment, inflation, the pandemic, all the stuff you would kind of expect. But there's also this bit about, quote, orchestrated attacks against the institution, end quote. That is a little vague, but the Trib reported that there's been some disputes among leadership and that the president has been accused of misconduct.
And with Pittsburgh Technical College, also money. They apparently got rid of $10 million in debt in recent years, but it just wasn't enough. Anyway, this technical college closure, Pittsburgh Technical College, is going to affect a little over 1,000 students, all here in Pittsburgh. And I really feel for them.
Yeah.
And the stories I've read, a lot of them were just surprised. They were kind of at a loss about what they were going to do next.
I don't know. I feel like this is a trend here in Pittsburgh and maybe nationwide of students getting completely caught off guard when their school shuts down. It does not seem like a good direction for education to be going in.
Or for programs to change, big faculty changes with little notice. It's just we've got to figure out something with our colleges and trade schools.
Yeah. And speaking of faculty and faculty change, I'm also just wondering what's going to happen to the staff and the professors at all of these schools, because they're losing their jobs too now.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Before we go, Mallory, what will you be thinking about this weekend?
So I'm excited about Pogo, which is our local bike share program. They just announced that they're launching a pilot for adaptive bikes for folks with disabilities.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so they're starting out at the Eliza Furnace Trail. There will be this big shipping container at the trailhead, in the parking lot, where you could pick up a hand tricycle or a recumbent bike, a cargo bike. There are a few other kinds, 7 in total. There is some fine print. These bikes will only be available Sundays and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Pogo does recommend making a reservation. But I'm glad that, more people may have access to this trail. And presumably, if the pilot goes well, they will expand it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the fine print, because Sunday 10 to 2, that makes sense to me. But Wednesday 10 to 2, that is a little more difficult.
Not really most people's leisure time, but,
Yeah, it's a pilot. Hopefully it expands. Mine, I've been reading more about the late, great Jerry West. He died earlier this week. Did you know who this was before I started talking about it in the office?
I think that every podcast episode just reveals that I have no sports knowledge. And you just put me on blast for that every week.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm here to help, though. I think he's arguably like West Virginia's most famous athlete ever. He grew up there. He played for WVU. He led the Lakers to a championship as a player, and then more in the front office and as general manager. This all culminated in the period in the 80s and beyond when pro basketball just got really fast, like closer to what we know it today. There's actually a great, if sort of ridiculous, show about those early days on HBO called Showtime.
Okay. I have heard of Showtime.
Yeah,
this is the first thing that's ringing a bell.
I cannot recommend it enough. It's a great watch. It's really silly. It's a little raunchy. Jerry West reportedly hated his portrayal on it, so lived long enough to see himself portrayed on HBO and dislike it. I will leave you with one last fun fact. A photo of Jerry was the inspiration for the NBA logo, the one with the white silhouette that they still use today.
I didn't realize that was a real person.
Yeah, I'm showing you a picture now.
Yeah, that's such a classic image.
Yeah, isn't it cool when you see the side by side? We'll post it in the show notes for Jens. But yeah, he had so many cool nicknames, I think. Mr. Logo, Mr. Clutch, Mr. Outside, maybe my personal favorite, Zeke from Cabin Creek.
Okay, well, rest in peace.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Please check out more from us online at pittsburgh.citycast.fm. Our music is by Benji. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Sophia Lowe, Selena Cia Reynolds, and Elizabeth Kama produced the show. Kevin Gavin and I wrote that Hey Pittsburgh newsletter, and I am your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, everyone. You know, like how sports announcers back in the day would just make up ridiculous things. I say back in the day, Mike Lang has been doing it now.
A time-honored tradition.
Yeah.